This is ITV. Certainly the best.
Thank you for staying with me on this morning on ITV. And today, being the 10th day of October, happens to be set aside by the United Nations as World Mental Health Day. And looking at this year's theme, 2017's theme for World Mental Health Day, we have mental health at workplace. And that's all to promote initiatives by managers, by employers of labor to ensure that we have a good working environment in order to eliminate mental disorders like depression, like anxiety, and all that we have that is challenging the world in terms of productivity at workplace. And discussing this vital topic with me being set aside by the World United Nations, I have Dr. Israel Aino, a consultant psychiatrist with the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. Many thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here this morning.
Today is a World Mental Health Day.
That's true.
What's the significance of the day?
Well, the significance of the day is to raise awareness the world over about certain important aspects of our health that we need to pay more close attention to. And so from year to year, the World Health Organization tries to look at topical issues. They bring them up and lay emphasis on it. So this year, the work environment is an important issue in the front burner.
Yeah.
And it was considered that it is necessary that the mental health of individuals who work should be paid attention to, and to ensure that as much as possible, people have a positive mental health in their work environment. So that's the essence of this emphasis for today by the World Health Organization. So it is hoped that through this process and by raising awareness, employers of labor and those who are employees also will begin to pay attention to the issues that are important with regards to their emotional health. That's the whole essence of this day.
Okay, what's the impact? Is it negative in terms of the mental disorders on productivity at organizations?
Okay, well, we know that if individuals are unwell, obviously they cannot produce well, they cannot be productive. So anybody who is unwell, mentally unwell, for example, cannot do his or her work efficiently. So mental illnesses will affect productivity, obviously.
Okay.
But on the other hand, what obtains in the work environment could also affect the person's emotionally, that could lead to the development of a mental illness. So there's a symbiotic relationship, a back and forth relationship between work and the health of an individual, because most people actually spend a major part of their day at work, particularly for those who work. So
yes.
It's so important to pay attention to what happens in the work environment and ensure that the person is well to do his work and be most productive.
Okay, we have mental disorders like depression, anxiety.
Yeah.
Can you describe what this means?
Okay, well, depression is an emotional disorder. That means that it's a disorder that affects our feelings. And there are a lot of features that an individual who has depression can manifest. But most importantly, the person who has depression is unhappy most of the time. He or she is unhappy most of the time. The person feels tired most of the time. He doesn't feel that he has energy to do what he or she has to do. And then the person does not have interest in doing those things that he or she used to enjoy. These are the central features that you find in an individual who has got depression. So there are other symptoms, but these are the critical, typical, central features of depression. On the other hand, anxiety, well, is another disorder, a mental disorder, which is very common, and it has to do with the persistent feeling of apprehension, worries, and fear that people have. Sometimes these worries and apprehension and fear could be associated with some other factors, some other triggers that the person might have experienced in the past. So this person has a lot of anxieties, and then his body also responds. When these things come up on him, he may become restless, his heart may be beating fast, he may feel that he's sweating, he may be restless, his hands may be shaking, he's unable to focus and concentrate. So when you have that, you have an individual who has got anxiety disorder. These and many more mental disorders are possible in the populace, and more importantly, in those who are working in a work environment.
Okay, I asked you that to say this, because we look at the anxiety disorder, for instance. and an environment that could produce this strain that will go a long way to affect the job productivity negatively. Looking at an ideal society, let's picture the Nigerian society, for instance. Is the Nigerian society an ideal one that would eliminate anxiety? Because we often see issues that make a lot of workers at workplaces to be anxious.
Okay.
Most especially job security.
Yes.
Looking at the challenges of the economy.
Yeah.
So can one develop an anxiety from that and become a negative, affecting the job?
Certainly, it is possible. But to start out with, I would say that there's no perfect environment the world over,
Okay.
where the situations are so perfect that people cannot develop an anxiety situation. But looking at the Nigerian environment, we do have a lot of challenges too in our environment that would make people to be worried and anxious and possibly develop an anxiety disorder. Depending on the environment wherein one works, job security may vary from one establishment to the other. In those establishments, which tend to be a government establishment, your job may be a bit more secured than in the private sector.
Okay.
So it all depends on the environment where the person finds himself or herself, and then it also depends on the leadership of that workplace, how they're able to carry the workers along, the policies that they have to ensure the well-being of and the welfare of workers. So these are factors that actually goes a long way to determine a sense of feeling secure in the work environment by the worker. But beyond that, the economy of the nation, well, we have a volatile economy, it's up and down, so it's quite a bit unpredictable sometimes. So it also depends on the individual, his or her capacity to cope with these changes and the stress that we face every day. Because you would know that if you place two people in the same environment of distress, in terms of the economy of the country or even a work environment, one person may adjust well and cope better than other people. So the innate makeup of these individuals may vary and affect their ability to cope. This may be based upon their previous experiences, the challenges they've had to go through, the kind of support system that they have, and the expectations that they have. So different people cope differently with stress, and that would affect the extent or the level of possible anxiety or depressive symptoms that they may manifest with if they are overtly stressed beyond their limit in their work environment.
Okay, I know you are a consultant, psychiatrist with the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, but let's take a look at what can be done in terms of initiatives as deployed by the employer, for instance, that would promote mental health in the workplace.
Very good. There are quite a lot of things that the employer can actually do. The specific aspect of this has to do with the employer, because we do know that there are things that the employee also can do, and those who take advantage of the service rendered by the workplace can also do to ensure that there's positive mental health in that place. But for the employer, there are a lot of things. I would want to start by saying that the employer should be willing to create that environment that is enabling and healthy for the employee to work in. It's very important. If the employer, the superior, has that mindset, the attitude that I want to make my workers to be comfortable and happy, it's very important. So in trying to do this, there are a lot of things he or she can do. For example, the person should begin by being a good example. Should be a good example to the employee about how to do the work. He or she should be seen as laying example. He or she should be seen as being part of the work. You know, if the employer comes around early and engages in the activities of the work, there's no way the employee would also not join him and engage in the work. So it should be a good example. And the next to that is that I think he should be friendly. He should create a friendly environment. Yes, he should be definitely friendly to his employee. I would encourage employers of labor to make it their decision to want to go out of their way to make friends with the employee. That would endear the employee-employer relationship, to make it very cordial, and there will be friendship. Beyond that, I think also it will be helpful if the employer can create an open door policy wherein those who work under him can access him. It should be accessible. It should be such that if they have challenges, they have things they struggle with, if they have difficulties with their work, they should be able to come up to him and talk to him about the challenges they have. And then he should be able to listen to them and as much as possible provide solutions. There are some times that the employer may not be able to solve all the problems that the employee come up with, but you should be sincere enough and open enough to let them know that, okay, these challenges you've brought may be beyond my capacity or capability at this time, but I will do my best to look into it.
Okay.
So that open door policy, I think, is very important in the workplace. Now, it's also important that the employer of labor does a very important thing by looking carefully into the remuneration of the employee.
Yes.
It's very important, because if the employer of labor does not give the employee what is due them as at when due, that will impact on their morale. So as much as possible, we talk about salaries, we talk about allowances, and all those aspects. Those are the basic things that actually encourage the employee. They are the things that stimulate them, that boost their morale. So
Yeah,
whatever it is,
as incentives.
yeah, it's incentives. So whatever it is that has to be done to ensure that these things come regularly and as appropriate as possible should be done. If there's any reason for their remuneration to be delayed or something happens to it, there should be clear explanation to the employee about what challenges might be. So the employer of labor has a lot of role to play in trying to do this.
Thank you. You've really elaborated on that. I appreciate that. But let's look at the employees angle now. While we are discussing some visuals, we are being played, rolled on screen, and this aspect of rage that we see in the work environment by some workers, because you can hardly tell who is really mentally sick. Not only those who are naked in the street are really mentally sick. Some are in good ties, having good suits on. So how do you know one who is mentally imbalanced?
Okay, looking at the employee in the work environment.
Yes.
One of the common ways to actually begin to look at that could be when you see that the employee's productivity is beginning to decline.
Okay.
If an individual is supposed to resume to work by 8 a.m. every day, and you see that for the whole week in a row, more than a week back on back, he or she keeps coming late to work.
Okay.
And that's not the usual pattern. Something must have gone wrong. Prior to that time, he or she probably comes to work early, but over the last few days or a few couple of weeks, he or she is beginning to come late to work. We can see that the productivity in that sense is beginning to decline. So we should be able to pay attention to this person. What could be the challenge that he or she is going through? And then beyond that, when you come to work and you are supposed to do some task, finish some assignment, he or she is not able to finish those assignments as at when due.
Yes.
Compared to previously, then we notice that this person has
That's
a
an
problem.
indicator.
However, having said this, you mentioned the issue of rage. People can actually react to situations
like
differently.
aggression. Yes.
There's a level of being angry, well acceptable, or is acceptable for everybody to be angry sometimes when things that are unpleasant are thrown at us. But when you now see an individual who demonstrates aggression or anger beyond the limit that is considered socially acceptable, then we know that there's likely to be a problem. Of course, in every workplace, the employees' relationship one with another and with their superior, you can know when somebody is angry and this anger is beyond what is acceptable. That individual will need help, because you may need to find out why he or she is angry like that. There are some mental disorders that could make people to be actually very angry, and you might find it difficult to control their anger. So that can be used as a parameter if the level of demonstration of that anger is beyond what is socially acceptable. Of course, oftentimes other features will go along with that also. The kind of words the person say, the person could manifest physical aggression by fighting. In the work environment, fighting is never acceptable. Even use of foul languages are never acceptable. Oftentimes, they are contrary to the work ethics. So when an individual is not able to control his emotions and gets to that point and begins to use foul words and begins to use physical violence, there's obviously a problem, and he or she needs to be helped.
So much is expected from managers, for instance, in organizations to bring out or draw out a measurable model in which you can be able to determine those who need such attention psychologically.
Yes.
Okay.
Oftentimes.
So how periodic, how timely can this be done?
It would be nice that in a very well structured and standard work environment, the manager should organize health forum for their staff that will educate the members of staff on their health.
Okay.
And it is pertinent because we're talking about mental health in the workplace in this period of time. The idea is that from now till the next 1 year, that should be the focus of many people in their work environment.
Yes.
It's an opportunity for employers of labor to organize mental health education meetings for their staff so that they can be educated on the common mental health problems, the common signs and symptoms to watch out for, and how they can be helped. So these are things that can be done by the managers of labor or the employers of labor to be able to help their staff to be able to cope. And then oftentimes it would be good if there are one or two personnel who are assigned to oversee the health of workers in the work environment. Maybe the personnel officer or public relation officer or some other people could be assigned to, from time to time, monitor the health and the performance of the staff. That could help to identify on time a staff who has a challenge or who has a health issue that might be helped. And again, it would be nice if a work environment can have a standard clinic setting, maybe a particular place where they refer their staff to whenever there is a problem.
Yeah.
Whenever they notice any issue, they can promptly refer that individual, and then help can be obtained, medical help can be obtained before the problem becomes too much. There's a place for counselors also in the work environment. It will go a long way to help individuals who have challenges and issues with their work, to advise and guide them on how to cope with these things. But having said this, the attitude of the employer is very important in helping these workers to feel a sense of belonging and to be willing to open up whenever they have issues before it gets to a critical point that begins to affect their work.
Thank you very much. It's this man on ITV, and I've been having a chat with Dr. Israel Aino. He is a consultant psychiatrist with the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, and we are on what the United Nations is commemorating for this day, which is World Mental Health Day. And the theme for this year is mental health at workplaces. Dr. Aino, let's look at other possible causes of mental disorders, like alcohol intake, cigarettes, drug abuse, and all that. How do you caution or reconcile with this for workers?
I feel that it is not appropriate that in the work environment people should engage in the use of such substances. And apart from the work environment, as a general rule for maintaining a good health,
Yes.
it is not advisable that people should indulge in the use of substances. Most of the time, people who indulge in these substances get to develop health problems, and they get to be so dependent or addicted, as it were, on some of these substances. They find it difficult to cope without it, and in the long run, it impacts on their health. So, to a large extent, we tend to discourage the use of substances, whether outside of work or in the work environment. We tend to discourage it. More so in the work environment, people cannot perform optimally under the influence of these substances. We have, however, met a few persons.
This can be argued.
Yes, who will say that they need so amount of a substance
to balance up in productivity.
But medically, what we do know is that these individuals have developed such a habit as a maladaptive or a wrong way of coping with their stress and the work. So everybody ought to learn a better way, an adaptive way, a more acceptable way to cope with the stress at work rather than the use of substance. Because when this person uses substance to cope at work, there are some times that the use of the substance will impact his or her productivity, but in the long run, it will affect the
positively.
health. No, it will negatively impact their productivity in the long run. Then in the long run, it will also negatively impact the physical health of this individual. So it is never a way to cope. If an individual will require something else to cope in the work environment, he or she should be willing to discuss that with the employer of labor to try and see how that kind of a situation can be provided that will make him or her to cope better at work rather than the use of substance to cope at work. It's never a beneficial way to cope at work.
Looking at that aspect, the use of substance and all that, how can such a worker or a victim withdraw from it? Because there's this withdrawal syndrome that could run up on such an individual.
When he or she
so what do you advise? Yeah.
The first thing is for the person to be willing to make that change, to stay away from the substance. Because like rightly said, if the individual who has been using a particular substance repeatedly and is in quote used to it, tries to stay away, there could be withdrawal symptoms. That could be a reason why he or she finds it difficult to stay away from the substance. But if he or she is ab initio motivated, has a level of drive, personal drive, to want to stay away from the substance, he or she will go to any extent to seek help to be able to get away from the substance. So for that individual, he or she will need to seek medical help so that a process of getting him to be free or to win him away from that substance can be brought to play, and that will make it easy for him to go through the process of withdrawal.
Thank you. Well, it's World Mental Health Day, and that's exactly what we're talking about, how to ensure that we have a better workplace where we promote initiatives that will help work activity that will bring about productivity level and all of this. And Dr. Aino, as we round off on this segment, what do you advise? The government as playing a role on ensuring that we have a sane society, and a closing remark for the viewers.
Well, our government has got a lot of role to play. I think that we should consider the interest of the society, the people in the society, as a priority. Whatever it is that promotes happiness in the society should be the primary plan of government. Through their policy making, through the planning of policy, through the implementation and monitoring of whatever they plan to do, at the back of their mind should be the common good of the society. I think if this is the principle upon which every member of government functions, it is likely that people will be happier in the society. And I tell you that if we have people who are happy in the society to go about their daily activity, they are likely to commit themselves more to their work. Even the employer of labor is also a member of the society. If he feels that the policy of government with regards to how he operates his place of business is quite encouraging and enabling, that will trickle down on his employee. If he's not placed under the duress of a lot of sanctions, very heavy taxation, and very difficult situation to be able to cope in the outside market, this will likely trickle down to his employer. So my advice for government is whatever policies government is planning and implementing and trying to monitor should be to make the populace happy.
Like discouraging drug abuse.
Very important.
Like alcohol intake, cigarettes.
That's very important.
Do you prefer ban or taxing them exorbitantly so that to discourage it?
Well, it all depends on the context. Exorbitant taxation will be very important. Ban could be an issue of conscience and morality and all of
infringing on the rights
of people. So a lot has to.
That can be considered.
It can be an issue. It can be a challenging issue.
Okay.
But I think government can do a lot by bringing everybody to the table, educating people periodically. Because even if you ban it, things would always find their way into the community. So education is very important. Health education on the long-term health impact of these substances should be done. When people have information, it is not left for everybody in the society to listen and take necessary steps to ensure a positive health for themselves as individuals.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been awesome to know that today happens to be the World Mental Health Day, and I've been discussing with Dr. Israel Aino, a consultant psychiatrist with the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. Well, you've heard much. It's up to us to ensure we have a sane society, what we do with ourselves, what we take, how we do, and that work environment will go a long way to boost or dwindle or decline the productivity level of our jobs.
This is ITV, certainly the best.